realize the more I don't go with the flow, I am a rising star for sure. For sure. Seed of greatness has been planted, I can't wait for it to grow. Why I reap what I sow, yes I reap what I sow. The dry times and dark places increase my capacity for growth. It's inevitable to burst out of the norm of mediocrity. Excellence is calling me out. Now I'm moving at a brand new maximum velocity. It's time is ticking away, I'm ready to pay the price. Every day, no debt is too great. Admission paid at the gate. A fresh start, a new beginning for a heart that's willing. Just keep the record spinning. This the soundtrack of true living. Purpose driven, breaking through the ceiling. Unpin the old underpinnings. Freshly made bed with new linen. Lights on, never dimming. Back to the original imprinting. Ancient pathos turning back from my destiny.
I'm hot but still chillin'. I'm firm but still forgiving. I'm getting but still giving.
You gotta chill. I'm hot but still chillin'. I'm firm but still forgiving. I'm getting but still giving. You gotta chill.
Good evening. My name is Eric Hong. I'm a programmer. I'm the curator of the Queer Shorts and grant writer for the Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival. Thank you for joining us for this Q&A on the Queer Shorts program. Maybe you can introduce yourself briefly first and tell us which film you're associated with. Let's see. Ward, would you like to begin?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Ward Kamel. I'm based in New York, and I'm the director of The Mood in the United States today.
Great, thank you. Dane.
Hello, my name is. I'm Dean Hamer, coming to you from Hawaii, and I am one of the directors of Kapai Mahu, a Hawaiian film, along with my partner and husband, Joe Wilson, and our lead director, Hinale Moana Wang Kalu.
Great, thank you. Dane.
Hi, my name is Dane Nevis, also from Hawaii. So aloha, Dean. I directed Parental Guidance Suggested.
Great. And Kevin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Jang Wang. I am coming from Los Angeles, California, and I was the writer, director, and one of the producers for Blue Suit.
Great. Emery.
Hi, my name is Emery Charlie Johnson. My pronouns are they, them. I'm also coming from Los Angeles on the Gabrielino and Tangvik territory land, and I am with here Bind.
Great. Robin.
Hey, my name is Robin. I use he, him pronouns, which is not on my display for some reason. I go to school at USC in Los Angeles, but currently I'm in China, and I'm the writer-director of Graduation.
Okay, thank you for getting up so early. And Jordana.
Hi, I'm Jordana Valerie Allen Shim, she, her pronouns. I'm coming from Toronto, Canada, and I'm the writer, director, and editor of Gay Isn't Happy, A Queer Anti-Tragedy.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to start with a couple of questions, or open questions for everybody, and maybe 2 or 3 people can answer each question, and then we can talk about each specific film. And if you're joining us in the audience, please put your questions in the comments. We will get them, and we will get to your questions. So my first question is, all your films explore some of life's trials and even traumas regarding identity. How do you find meaning in the suffering and channel it into your films? And how did you find and imagine joy in your films? Anyone want to jump in?
It's a very metaphysical question. For me, I look at life, in some ways, Graduation is a comedy, but I think it was a comedy is a way of looking at life in some ways, and I enjoy I think making fun of life's pain sometimes. So yeah, so in a sense, I used to be making melodramas about love and relationship, and people cannot be together. And for this one, I just took a different spin. I think and embrace like the opposite approach, sort of, and I guess embrace the fun and absurdity that's underneath the suffering. Yeah.
Great. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go ahead and echo what Robin said. I think, like it's so difficult to deal with one's own struggles and one's own, and like there's so many ways to, I don't know, like work through it. And I do find, I'm sure most of us do it, like filmmaking and writing especially is like quite an effective method in dealing with that. And yeah, I totally agree with everything Robin said also. Eric, you're muted.
You're muted, Eric.
Sorry about that. What imaginations for the future do you hope audiences take away from your films? Because a lot of your films do end in a somewhat ambiguous way. Not all of them, but some of them do. What do you want audiences to take away?
Well, for our film Kapai Mahu, it's based on an ancient legend about these 4 big stones, which are still there in Waikiki Beach, but which hold the spirits of the first healers in Hawaii, who came from Tahiti and taught the Hawaiians how to heal disease. These healers were Mahu, which is the Hawaiian word for what we would call transgender or gender non-binary. And what's interesting is that although the stones are still there, the part of the story about them being Mahu has been suppressed and hidden and censored. And so we're trying to revitalize that story. We used animation as the way to tell it. But our hope for the future is that next year, when 5 million tourists return to Hawaii, that all of the people that walk by these stones in the middle of Waikiki Beach will have an opportunity to learn what they stand for, and that will spill over and help people realize, hey, Hawaii has this very accepting and welcoming history and tradition towards non-binary people. And, it works out fine. It's something good. Actually, especially now when we need healing so much, I hope people will recognize that Mahu actually have special talents in healing, and that they'll become to look at it with admiration rather than with trepidation or fear.
Great. Any other thoughts?
My film, Parental Guidance Suggested, is kind of like a like a long PSA for parents of gay LGBT kids, and it was my goal for people to use this film as a tool to start a conversation among families who have gay kids who are just coming out. So I hope it can be used as a tool in that sense.
Any other thoughts?
For us, I hope people will understand that love is toxic, and it's not like and the struggle that we're in are not different, are not that different from one another. Like, we're all human beings who want to love and be loved.
Great. So let us dig into each film, and maybe we can just proceed in the order that the program was in. And also feel free to ask each other questions. I want to make sure that you have a chance to ask your fellow filmmakers any questions that you have. So the first film in the program is Gay Isn't Happy, and I just love this film because you see, so many queer films are tragedies in many ways, and this is just so absolutely not that, right? Can you maybe talk a bit about how you might encourage filmmakers to make happier queer films?
Sure. So I guess something that I thought about a lot while making this was, who was it really for? And though it was always intended to kind of be anti-tragedy, it was really hard to not perform my trauma anyways, and there were earlier versions of kind of my script and even cuts that went darker. And I guess I just thought, for people who have gone through the same or similar stuff I've gone through, do they really need to see the darkest version of this? I can allude to it and have empathy without going fully in and re-traumatizing people. And I think that I mean, I talk about a lot of pretty dark stuff in my movie, and I'm absolutely okay with movies being about dark subjects. Obviously, there's a lot of dark stuff that happens to queer people. But I guess, yeah, for other filmmakers, it's really nice to see so many people who also have hope for the future. And I think it's so important to have queer films that not only tell stories of our tragedy, but also stories of our hope and our growth, and that can leave people feeling like there's something better, not just for the future, but that already exists now.
Wonderful. Where have you shown this film so far? Have you shown it within the community, or what are some of the reactions? Yeah.
So I think I only got to go to one in-person screening before COVID shut everything down, which was really nice. It was called Color Theory. It's in Toronto, and it's just a showcase for queer filmmakers of color. So that was really nice. Otherwise, it's been at a lot of online screenings, which is a bit weird, as I'm sure all of the filmmakers here know, because you can't quite get people's reactions. But sometimes you'll get some comments and have people reach out to you. And I even had one person on the street who went to the Color Theory in-person screening talk to me about it, which was really nice. So I'm looking forward to the in-person screenings again someday.
Great. So for the mood of the United States today, is a very intriguing concept, this marriage. And do you think it's a happy ending? Is it a happy marriage? And what are the repercussions for the nurse?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, yeah, it was very rooted in, you know, my own immigrant experience, my own kind of foray into the world of green card marriages, which to me, you know, before kind of delving into that world myself and even like making the film, I think, as most of us do, it's very stigmatized, and it's this kind of mysterious thing that seems to happen in the shadows between people that are, you know, taking on this contractual agreement. And I think that what I really found was that the reality, you know, as always, is like a lot more. It's so much more subtle, and it could be something that's in between love and friendship, or it could be something that's in between friendship and affection. I don't think that the film has a particularly happy ending, but I also do think that, you know, the alternative. I think the biggest statement is that the alternative was that our protagonist was going to be deported, and she was going to, you know, leave this country against her will, and that in reality the sort of ultimate, you know, the ultimate ending of the film as it stands is not happy, but I don't think that's ever been an option for many immigrants. It's kind of like what you're making of your own situation. But I also, you know, it ended on a sadder note. I see a world in which their life continues to get better. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make sure everyone has a chance to answer a question. We can come back to all the films. For Blue Suit, it's really a wonderfully made film. And I'm wondering, what is John afraid of in not asking for so long?
Oh gosh. I think, like, for Blue Suit, it's really a story about two friends, and one of which has feelings for the other, but it's kind of like, do they like me, do they not like me? So it's really taking on this classic of like, oh my gosh, like I have all these feelings, and if I confess my feelings for my friend, will this make it awkward? If he doesn't reciprocate these feelings, then we have destroyed any type of relationship we could have moving forward. And so for John, he is just naturally such an anxious character, and for him to take on that next step with Henry there's just a lot of questions that John just really cares and cherishes his relationship with Henry, and he wants, obviously, to confess his romantic feelings, but he, at the same time, is worried about not even having a relationship anymore. So he really toggles between, like, do I want to take this risk and go ahead and tell him, or do I just like sit with my feelings forever, but then just remain miserable the entire time?
So at the end of the film, he definitely seems to be getting over. But do you think he becomes a bolder person, more comfortable himself afterwards?
Yeah. So if you've seen the film, then you know at the very end of it, John doesn't get a chance to actually. He decides not to confess his feelings for Henry, and John ends up deleting his confession note on his phone, and for him, that was his way of saying, like, this is my first step in moving forward. And although it's not the happy-go-lucky ending that we all want, I think the theme that I really wanted to play with here is, for a lot of folks, we're confronted with this intersection of what we want and what we actually need in life. And so, like, John really wants a relationship with Henry. However, is that truly what he needs? And so, by the end of this film, it is a bittersweet ending that, like, he doesn't get what he wants, but ultimately he gets what he needs, and he grows up a little bit more by doing so.
Wonderful. So for Graduation is next. For Graduation, which is one of the funniest films I saw this year, and especially that breakfast scene at the end. So what does food mean to you in this film? Because some of the deepest conversations happen with food, both at the beginning and at the end.
Very profound question. It's definitely an image system that it begins with a breakfast, begins with a dinner and ends with a breakfast. And the film, it has inspiration from, eat, drink, man, women, and in Chinese culture, we use food as a way for socializing. It's in the first scene, it became a source of it became a stage of the scenario for pretense. It's when we all start to behave like, oh, we're social people and we're having all these being polite and having all these etiquette and complimenting each other's sons, and also when we are stripping off those veneer of the pretense of society, deep down we are human beings with desires, from each other. So after the dinner scene, and the secrets are revealed as the night progresses, and in the morning, all those covers got blown away, and they were stripped off their very fancy costume from the first scene and left with their pajamas in the end. And that's sort of the embarrassment that they were in at breakfast. So food is a way of communicating. It's a way of it's a way for us to bond to each other, but it's also in that scenario that we find ourselves lacking that communication, being deprived of our speeches and left in that embarrassing, awkward breakfast.
Hey, great. Could I ask Robin a question, since you mentioned you're in China and you have a Chinese gay film? What the situation is right now about showing gay films in China? Because I've been involved in that since the 1980s, and it's changed back and forth. I was surprised this year that Shanghai suddenly shut down the gay festival, and yet Beijing, which we usually think of as more restrictive, seems to be having a festival. So I wonder if you could just give people an update on the situation there.
That was interesting, because I thought, so in the early 90s, there were queerness in films like, the Farewell My Concubine, and in Hong Kong, Happy Together. But for mainland, I think queerness has been something that's really underground. I think it's not like out and loud. And with the current situation, I think it's getting even more restricted, and it doesn't on the one hand comes with hard censorship, and on the other hand, it comes with what makes money, what people want to see, and the thing people want to see is the celebration of heteronormativity and the traditional sense of marriage, and that's the, I guess, the uniformity of the message. That's across the board. But alternative, I guess, cinema of and especially queerness, I think it goes very underneath the surface. It's very much underground. I think I haven't really seen like a legitimate queer film in years. Sad to say, but I think, but in the Asian diaspora community, I've seen, in Chinese diaspora community, I've seen that more, like in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. I've seen that, and Asian America, of course. But mainland, I think it's still a little.
It's back and forth. Yeah.
Delicate. Yeah.
I know this is not for everybody, but since there's a bunch of gay Asian filmmakers here, that in Taiwan now, the Gay Film Festival there is running actually a competition and a pitch competition with up to $100,000, like serious money, for Asian queer type of content. So any of you who are interested in writing scripts might be interested in taking a look at that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for parental guidance suggested, why did you decide on puppets?
Well, since I was in film school, like almost 15 years ago, I made a director's trademark that every single one of my creative projects is going to have a puppet in it. I wanted to make a little bit more of a stronger statement with this film, so I used the puppets as surrogates to bring people into this world of coming out as a gay person. So they're representing symbols of childhood, but they're also a surrogate for parents, conservative families, and the like.
For Bind, and that's an incredibly powerful 2-minute film. And why did you decide on binding as opposed to any other object that can be in this film?
Sure. So I think binding is an interesting gateway for some people to start exploring their gender identity, and in kind of recent years, because of like trans folks starting their own businesses selling binders, that's become a bit safer for folks to explore binding in different ways. So and also kind of being able to show that portrayal of chest binding, since I haven't seen too many media content that kind of goes into that. I was interested in just kind of including that, and also serves as like a plot device in the film.
So at the end, how much acceptance do you think there was?
Well, I think at the end, I guess you were talking about ambiguity. I feel like ambiguity and complexity go hand in hand. So I think it's more about just seeing how powerful of a moment that was, and being able to just sit with Jules, the character, just to be able to see like what just happened and what's going to happen next. So I think just kind of we're trying to get more of that type of energy of uncertainty, but also kind of limitless potential.
Thank you. And for Kapemahu, and I'm sorry, I'm sure I didn't say that right, but we talked a lot about whether we should put the film in the Queer Shorts or a different program, because we're definitely, I mean, in some ways, we're definitely extending the notion of queerness back in history. Not obviously, or I should say, we're extending modern notions of what queer means back into history. So let me ask, how do you think about your film being part of the Queer Shorts?
I think really Hina, our lead director, would be the best person to answer that. But I think that the way she identifies herself is informative. She identifies first and foremost as Mahu or Mahu Wahine, which is a Hawaiian term, also used in Tahiti and some other places in the Pacific. And it's really an identity that goes beyond what we would call gender or sexuality. It's parts of spirit and of your heart and of your whole makeup. And it really, I think it reflects an intrinsic duality around gender that's true throughout all of Polynesia. So it can't be simply translated. But at the same time, Hina also identifies as transgender because she dresses fully as woman now, not as somebody in between. And she likes to be identified by female pronouns. In Polynesian languages, there's no gender to pronouns. So, but in English, we do have them, and she likes to be identified as she, hers. And so you can really be both. It's not black or white. So this is a concept that came from a long time ago. It can be interpreted by Westerners in the way that we think about it, but it also has its own meaning. And it's a very special meaning. And what I really like about the concept of Mahu is that it's an empowered station. It's like better than just male or better than just female because they have the attributes of both. And that can be very powerful and very, very useful and exciting.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. So we have about 3 minutes left. I will first of all ask you to ask each other some questions if you have any. I'll give you some time to.
I can ask, what are you all working on next or looking to develop next?
Well, we've kind of caught the animation bug. We have always been documentary filmmakers, but in the pandemic, animation actually works out kind of well. So we're going to do a Pacific version of Brokeback Mountain in animation with a happy ending. That's my aim right now.
Well, I've definitely been trying to write a lot because of production being as difficult as it is. Yeah, similarly to animation, I think it's a lot more, staying at home is a bit more conducive. So writing as much as I can.
I have started a YouTube series, virtual talk show with this ghost puppet interviewing people about how they're surviving the new normal in the pandemic. And it's been pretty fun so far.
Yeah, for me,
I'm also. Sorry, go ahead.
For me, I was just saying we're still in it with the festival run for Blue Suit, and in the meantime, too, I'm just writing a lot. Writing another script that feels a little bit like Blue Suit, and a different script that's a little bit grittier. So, very excited about those two projects right now.
I'm working on writing my thesis film for USC. Still dealing with Asian diaspora community, and also writing a few horror short films. And in the same time, I'm turning a graduation into a feature.
Thanks for sharing. That all sounds so exciting. I'm just finishing up a documentary, and I'll see what happens next. Thank you.
Great. So I know this is a huge question, but we have 1 minute. What do you think queer filmmaking needs next? What project haven't we done that we need to do?
Include more POC voices.
Yeah. I'll also say that, I think it'd be great to see more films where queerness is featured, yet it isn't, addressed almost. I'm starting to see more characters that are queer, not for any specific reason, Yeah.
I think we need an Oscar award for somebody from the Pacific. That's what I think we need.
I think just being able to have a space where, especially Black and Indigenous, trans, and queer folks, as long as the wider community, feel like they can still contribute to an art form where they can add stories that are either are missing, have been mistold, or to inspire some different future.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for being accommodating for our last-minute time change. I hope you enjoyed each other's films and also other parts of the festival. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You say this kill, black and brown, and when will you talk about class in this story? The rest is allegory. Come together, unionize, see it through each other's eyes. No need to fight over supplies while workers save lives. They need protection too. What we gonna do? Organize a way through. And for those behind bars, we must fight hard. Global pandemic, endemic, systemic. No equality, no quality of life.